Hello and welcome to the holiday episode of the Show Me Mo podcast, episode number 5. And no better person to have on the holiday recap episode than episode number 1, who kicked it all off and got us started with all this. Executive Director of the Missouri School Plant Managers Association, aka MSPMA, Mr. Charley Branham. Charley,
Hey
how are
Josh.
you?
Hey Josh, doing great, doing great. A little cold.
Hey.
Got a little chill going outside. We're expecting some snow and ice, but we're the plant managers of Missouri are ready.
I was in Florida Monday and Tuesday. It's Wednesday. Monday, Tuesday, it was 70s. I was getting ready to leave, and they said, this Friday it's gonna be 39 and it's gonna be 59 up here. I said, I'm in the right place. All these people run to Florida for the warm weather. They getting the cold Christmas stuff, and we're getting some strange, odd warm weather up here in Boston. But yeah, Midwest, you guys are getting this is the polar caps, or what, Arctic air, whatever they're calling it. It's hitting hard, and snowstorms and everything. It's winter's come in full force. First day of winter's today. I almost forgot. Shortest day of the year.
It's bringing it on. We're 35 now, and tomorrow night -8, Friday night -9. However, no school's in session right now, so
Yeah,
everybody gets a break.
pond hockey season. That's what that is. Ice is going to freeze quick.
That's right. That's right.
Public service announcement: check the ice real good. Don't go thinking because it's cold for a day or two that it's frozen, because it's not always frozen. But we're going to get into some MSPMA talk. Before we do, I want to talk about the podcast, because I am extremely proud of what's been accomplished in a short amount of time. This went from you and I spitballing end of September, beginning of October, having a conversation. I said something like, it'd be really cool is if MSPMA had another outlet to change and to share content with their members and with the world, because I'm a big fan of Missouri. And you said, that's a great idea. Why don't you do one? And that's how we got going, right? We talked about it, we put it together, we did it in record time. And for those of you that don't know, I have 2 companies of my own, Be Awesome and K-12 Pros. I'm the only employee of both of those. So I have to do everything. And I've got 2 podcast channels that go with it. And I book all my travel, all my contracts, all my stuff, all the stuff. And putting this added podcast on was like another added layer of complexity. But I said yes. And what was awesome was it's really been a team effort. You built the forum. You're finding the talent, the people that you've known in Missouri for the years. You're putting the right people in the seat for these episodes. I mean, every episode, I feel like I've known these people my entire life. And they're just so knowledgeable in the industry that they serve and the services that they provide. And it shows. This is our 5th episode. We've already got almost 1,000 downloads. We've got 5-star ratings and reviews, which for those that don't know this, there's 3.6 million podcast channels today. Less than 10% over the course of their life get more than 10 5-star ratings and reviews. We're halfway there with 5 episodes under our belt. So people are liking it. The content, we intended to do this in like a 20 to 30 minute bite-sized episode, and we can't get one under an hour because there's just so much great content. So this has been just an awesome and exciting journey to this point of a couple of months. And I'm really excited to see what happens in 2023. So I wanted to have you on specifically for us to talk about MSPMA. Let's talk about, before we get into 2023, let's talk about 2022. What were some highlights before Show Me Mo podcast? What were some of the big highlights for MSPMA and their members?
Well, we'll start from the at the end of the year and work back to the first of the year. But our conference was attended at 28.5% higher attendance this year than any of our highest years. So there's some interest, there's some need for more facility information, training, and sharing. So for us, the more training we do, the more people we get to reach, the more helpful it is to our school districts. But then working ourselves backwards from that, we formed so many really, really good healthy partnerships this year for our association. We have just a rock solid relationship with the Center for Educational Safety, which really fits well with school plant managers. And so that's been a great partnership for us. We have a really good partnership with the Missouri Association of Rural Educators, and we went to their conference, and we actually reverse roles as a vendor. That's a great relationship for us, and there are folks there that need our services and need our information. So that's been helpful. We've done 2 training sessions this year for MASA, which is our Missouri Association of School Administrators. Typically, the superintendents, the CFOs of school districts. Those are so well attended, but high compliments on the evaluation sheets that this was so helpful. It's things I get to take back to my district and we get to use right now, and it filled some gaps and some voids of things that we're going to have to try and figure out on our own. And then we are trying to forge a relationship right now, and it's got a great start with the Missouri Community Colleges Association. So we may no longer be a K-12 school plant manager. We may be more of a K-14. We have 12 community colleges in the state. They're very receptive about being a part of us. One of the thrills we share, well, I'm going to share in one of the community colleges awards at their conference. One of their awards was to hand out an entity or a department within their 12 colleges of a department that had improved their training or their professional development, and Raymond Wade got that award for Ozark Technical School, and he cites that his training was the School Plant Managers Association Missouri, and his people liked the training so well that more people want to go to our training, to our programming. So we share in their success. We had nothing to do with it other than, we're just a provider services. So a lot of great relationships this year, Josh, and it proved to be successful in the culminating event that we host in the fall in Branson, which is our annual conference.
Yeah, I had the honor to be invited to part of your closing board meeting, and it was eye-opening for me. And I think that the hook was already set with me. The hook for Missouri was set a long time ago, but the real when I walked out of that boardroom, I was like, the only thing I could hear that was a complaint was they wanted more. Right? It wasn't. Right. It wasn't that the food wasn't good. Like that's typically like if you go to an event and you complain about the food, you're going for the wrong reason. But it was like everybody liked everything so much, but they wanted more. They didn't want it to end, and it was just a resonating message of like, hey, the content was great. The classes were packed all the way to the last session. The exhibit hall was packed. It was like, hey, how do we get more room? Because we want more. And you guys, it showed it that the relationship, the partnerships. I love K through 14. That's actually the first time that I've heard someone reference it like that. And community colleges, they're definitely in this strange middle ground, right? Because the 4-year, they don't know how to really relate with the 4-year colleges because just about all of them are boarding, so to add a level of complexity. And the K-12 schools have their own groups. And then there's this group of community colleges, which the state of Massachusetts, I think there's 11. I don't know how many there are in Missouri, probably close to that, or maybe a few more. But in the last 5-6 years, for a number of reasons, community colleges are actually using K-12 school space for night classes. There's not enough space on their campus for the classes because the enrollment's so much higher. So it only makes good sense for people listening outside of Missouri, which we've got a ton. When I was in Florida, I had someone say, hey man, your Show Me Mo podcast is awesome. I said, I know. And I want to talk about, because one of the hit points they asked me about was on a previous episode. I talked about the rural schools, and people don't understand what rural schools really are like in Missouri. And I think we talked about it in episode 1 with your progression through profession. But what's a rural school considered in the state of Missouri? What classifies a rural school?
Well, some folks will say rural, some will say small, and some will say outstate. We have 3 larger urban areas in Missouri, St. Louis, Kansas City, but our largest public school district, Missouri, is in the center of the state, south in Springfield, Missouri.
Mhm.
So it's kind of a triangle across the state. So Springfield is 26,000 students, and they're the largest. So anything outside of those urban areas, 45 minutes
Yep.
is rural. It's so I can drive from my home here in Troy, Missouri. So we're seen as rural to the city, but then to the smaller schools for a little further out from St. Louis, we're seen as a city. Troy is, and it's 15,000 people. So it's just a matter of perspective. But we drive to Bush Stadium, the airport, 45 to 50 minutes. So to me, I have the best of both worlds. I'm kind of out in the country, but I'm considered suburban St. Louis. But to a St. Louis person, to get to Troy, you have to travel way out there. So it's a matter of perspective. We have districts with 100 students that are rural. We have districts that are 3,000 that are rural. But in Missouri, I think the saying has been, for the most part, 5 to 10% of the schools have 90% of the Missouri students.
Wow.
And 90% of the schools have 10% of the students. So the 90% we're talking about are rural school districts that make up a small portion of student population, but they all run as their own school district. And so a superintendent could be a superintendent of 26,000 students in Missouri, and he or she could be a superintendent of 80 to 100 students in a district. And we have some K-8 schools, and we have then we have a lot of mostly K-12 schools, pre-K-12, pre-K-8 nowadays.
My math is going to be close, but I'm sure if I'm wrong, please correct me roughly. You have roughly 575 classified public entity institutions with about 900,000 total students in the state. Is that pretty close?
That's true. If you ask how many public school districts, though, I think the number's about 522.
Okay.
But your public entities, we have some charter schools that have become more prevalent in Missouri, and they are sponsored primarily by another public school district or a college, public college or university. So,
So for those that have just listened to their first episode, we talked about this in episode 1. So that's kind of the lay of the land. So in 2022, what you guys did, which I think you laid some foundation work for exciting things to happen in 2023. So you guys are kicking it off right out of the gate. Like most people, especially people that have cold weather, do some hibernation in January. You guys flipped the script and said, no, we're going to have our first ever winter workshop. So let's dig into that. What's that all about, and how do people learn more and register fast and furious, I'm going to assume?
Well, the background is that we offer a facility manager's core certification program. And that program was born out of need of our school districts. Once again, it's the driving force to have more information and knowledge about school facilities. So our organization in about 2014 made a trip to Wisconsin, and I think that was supported or at least created in some partnership with associations you've been with and Brian Holland and folks, that we went to Wisconsin. We found a professional development program called the Core Certification Program that we felt like would be good for our members in Missouri as well. Wisconsin has just been a wonderful partner for us on that. That we have been able to ask questions, go back to their conference, meet with their people. And so throughout the year, our facility managers core certification program includes 7 modules. So each module contains between 4 and 5 breakout sessions, 1-hour sessions. And they're topical in nature, ranging from custodial operations to building systems. And 7 topics, 33 sessions. once a person finishes all those modules in attendance, then you have become a certified school plant manager in Missouri. We sanction that. So at our conference each year, we offer 2 of those 7 modules. And then outside of the conference, we offer 1 module in the winter here in the St. Louis region and 1 module in the Kansas City region a year. So we offer 4 of the 7 modules. And one of those modules is January 20th. It's module 7. It's about emergency management, school safety and security. So we will offer that session on January 20th. The typical schedule, the Missouri School Plant Manager Board meets 4 times in person throughout the year. And then on a monthly basis outside of those 4 times, we meet on the first Friday virtually. So we meet more regularly than we ever have because we've all learned how to use virtual media. But we meet the day before our modules are delivered in Kansas City and St. Louis. So instead of just meeting on the 19th as a board and then being there on the next day to host the module, we felt like if there's that big a need for information for school facilities and we have it available, then we have an obligation to share it. Mm-hmm. We decided to meet earlier on the 19th as a board from 10 o'clock till 1 or 12:45. We'll have lunch together as a board. And then we will share on January 19th what we're calling a day conference. So January 19th is a day conference. It's from 1 in the afternoon till 5 in the evening. And then we're gonna have a social time together that evening with one of our vendors. It's a very similar location, Josh, to what you enjoyed in Branson, but it's also that type of a location that I've heard you speak about that other states and conferences should consider, which is you come stay, you learn, and you play all right there in one spot together. It's very accessible. It sits on the Missouri River in St. Charles. It's a new area. It's got a lot. It's going to be really nice and new for folks and enjoyable. So we're looking forward to hosting that new training on the 19th in concert with our January 20th module 7 on emergency and safety, school safety.
Yeah, and this is really cool. First of all, the module 7, I'm going to stick around. I'm looking forward to seeing it because there's actually all of the topics are incredibly informative. But the one I really look forward to seeing is the after hours emergencies, how to plan. And I think that's one of the most difficult logistic managed pieces to a facility professional's career because unlike what a lot of people think, those schools are used 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And when something happens after hours, some people will assume it's empty. Other people will assume there's people in it. The most important thing is to know how many people are in it, where they are, and then what's a safety plan, because most of the people there don't partake in the fire exits and everything else. So I'm really looking forward to learning about that. But I have the honor to do something that I'm going to be doing in 2023 for other. I was actually starting to do it for keynotes, where instead of me going up and just giving a talk of prepared topics, it's an interview style. So the 19th is going to be interviewing folks along with them providing their presentation. So they're going to present, but I'm going to be able to be a moderator and say, okay, hey, let's dig a little bit more into that, or let's move over to this piece of what we're talking about, which what we're going to be talking about is 3 really relevant and often overlooked topics, which is get the lead out drinking water. You know, we heard so much about lead in drinking water with Flint, Michigan, and it seems like, you know, it's been somewhat addressed. It comes up in the news. There's a lot of regulation and testing that's required, but a lot of people don't know everything that's required and what's needed and what that regulation looks like. So you're going to have somebody from the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services. I love this one. I love this one coming up, which is partnering with our school nurses. There is so much more to school nurses than little Tommy or Sally going down and saying, I don't feel well, I got a tummy ache, to get out of class or to have mom and dad pick them up because they don't want to take a test, right? Because that's what I thought when I was in school, you know. They do a lot more, and one of those things that they do a lot of specifically, and that I found that it's really interesting, is protecting our kids that have respiratory issues and environmental impacts of what they're breathing and what they're experiencing, touching the what's around them. And so it's a lot more than just, you know, band-aids, bandages, and temperature taking. And I'm just really excited to get into that. And then last is a deep dive into building control systems. And that's something that we talk about in the industry every day, building management systems as buildings get smarter. But a building is only going to be as smart as the user, and the user needs training, and the user needs to understand what that building management system can do, critical alarms and everything else that goes with it. So you guys put together a pretty dynamic set of sessions. Oh, and I almost forgot, it's free, right? It's free.
It's free. It's free.
The only downside, you got a seating capacity of 96.
That's it. That's it.
So, I mean, you're going to fill the house.
Well, I hope so. You know, you don't know when you do these events, especially a first ever, whether you're going to have 20 or 220.
Mm-hmm.
So we have some great partners in Missouri on our vendor pool memberships. Their supports in any way, and this is no different. We have vendors buying lunch. We have vendors with us providing information. This particular training program, it's 4 hours. If you're driving in on the 20th for the core certification program, you're generally driving in from the south side, the north side, or the west side of the state. So you're driving on Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening. Why not just come midday? Yeah. We'll have some fresh topics. But what we wanted to do, Josh, and this is where you come in, we wanted to offer something in the style of presentation of this training that generated camaraderie and discussion and participation amongst those that were in the room. Mm-hmm. And so often, every time I've ever been at a session, Josh, you choose the session that you want to attend. You go into a conference room, you take your seat, maybe a table in front of you, maybe not. You get about a 45 minute presentation. You get up and go to the next one.
Right.
Well, you can ask questions many times in those, and you learn a lot, and you get access to the presenters, and all that's extremely valuable. The second style of session I've been to is what they call a panel discussion, mm-hmm. where 3 or 4 people are doing the presentation because they all have something in common, whether it's a project, whether it's just the subject, or just some spin on the same thing being presented. And you don't get enough time from any one of them to ask many questions and get deep into anything. And so we started our podcast. And by the way, I'm extremely proud of Show Me Mo School Facilities as well. I think it's got an awesome logo, and you maybe had something to do with that. It also
brainstorming.
It has an image of a school behind it that was one of the eight campuses that I had a big part and the pleasure of leading here in our school district. So I get to see the facility, and I get to see it on our podcast. But we're really proud of the podcast. We think it's a way for people in the school business or not to hear good content and information, whether they're on the road traveling, late at night looking for some good information. We think it's very valuable. But the thought is here with this presentation on Thursday, January 19th, is that Josh is literally going to conduct podcast in front of an audience, a live audience, but virtual podcast. He will be in the audience with us, and he will literally you will prearrange with each one of our presenters topics that we want to make sure covered. We already laid those out and outlined them. Yep. And so Josh will visit with the nurses in advance, but Then when he asks questions, he is leading to a partnership that can be created or should be created between our school facility specialists and our nurses, or as you would say, a team. So he's creating that room, that appetite to hear more, to do more together. And then he's going to break that off and cease that interview and that podcast at about 25, 35 minutes. And we're going to have another 30 or 40 minutes in the room to talk about best practices. In other words, how many of you are working with your health professionals in your community, in your schools? What are you doing? Come up here and tell the group what you're doing. Let's discuss this. So people can, you go get informations at conferences. The hardest thing is to apply that knowledge when you get back home, how to put it into practice. And so we're going to show people how to put it into practice by what other people are doing. And that's a great thing about being together. That's what we missed during COVID. We missed that personal contact where we could share. So get the let out. The state of Missouri, our second topic, is going to be presented by Steve May. And he's a chief executive there or officer with the Department of Health and Senior Services. But by the way, the nurses are from the Department of Health and Senior Services as well. So Missouri passed a law this year that Missouri schools by the start of the school year in 2024 must have less than 5 parts per billion on their drinking water for students, which is a great thing for our students. There's no acceptable level of lead that should be allowed into any person, especially our younger children that are developing cognitively. So we're going to have Steve with us virtually. So both the nurses and Steve May will be virtual podcasts for you that you'll conduct live for us, the audience, and then create the conversation within the group in the room. And the last one is a deep dive into building controls. It's a company that services all platforms of heating, cooling equipment. So it's not brand specific. We've worked with Chris Ruth of IFS, Integrated Facility Solutions. Now he's been a great vendor of ours. So again, 23 starts off with new training, more training, helpful training, things you can apply, conversation, creating conversation amongst partners and the Nurses Association, Department of Health Senior Services, one another from school districts, sharing their best practices so that you can go home and you can apply the knowledge and things that you're hearing and seeing. And so we're just trying to make it highly engaging because we want to encourage our members to reach out either to us at MSPMA, but us is really our vendors and our school members and our partners. So we can plug those folks in and they can have these conversations that save them time and money and get their job done sooner rather than lingering looking for a solution. So
yeah, I mean, it's spot on. Collaboration. That's the key to this. And when you said COVID, it was a trigger point for me because COVID is what really put that distance. My 25-year career, I always tell people my secret to success in sales in this industry, in this work, was I take care of I took care of my first client, just like I take care of my last client. And if I do that, they talk to each other, they collaborate with one another. They say, hey, it's not because I'm on the phone making 200 phone calls a day. It's because Charley, my first client, I took incredible care of. I made sure my team took incredible care of. And when they're talking, which they would do common and regularly, then there was that collaboration. People would call and say, hey, Charley told me to call you. And that COVID took that away from us for a little bit. And you guys are rebuilding is amazing. And speaking of rebuilding, you're doing some work on the website. I know you got a lot going on for the website for 2023, but you're doing a lot right now. You can click on the link for the podcast. You go to mspma.com. And right there, front and center on the homepage, it says 2023 School Facility Day Conference, January 29th, January 20th. View details and register. I'll put the link in the show notes. But you want to go there and you want to register because you're already taking registrations. You've already got quite a few that have committed.
We do. New to us, due to a partner, Spark Marketing, has stepped in for us and made an offer we couldn't refuse. A lot of help, modernize us, make our access to our association easier for our members, and make it a lot easier on the executive director. So it was free.
Yeah.
Naturally, we bought that package, and Brian Gomsky over at Spark Marketing is just we have our first online registration ever that is ours. We manage it. We don't have a third party manage it. So yesterday I was there and looked. We had 73 registrants total. We had mid 30s for Thursday, mid 30s or 40s for Friday. We expected our registrations for the Friday core. We've always managed to have between 65 and 80 folks there for the FMCC module, this one, module 7. So we could anticipate that, but our room was full, and that's why we moved it over to the Drury Conference Center there at the streets of St. Charles, looking over the Missouri River. But we didn't know where the 19th would be. We thought some folks may come in early for the 20th training and take advantage of the extra training. We're also in a metropolitan area there right outside of St. Louis, all connected to pretty good sized school districts. So we could predict that our board would be there from all over the state, that some folks would be there from core, and then we get some extra folks join us from the metropolitan area. So we're hoping to fill the house for both of those sessions. I'm sure we do. I hope it is a huge success. We're counting on you, Josh. So
Yeah,
the delivery method we dreamed up.
Yeah.
We plug the man in to manage the whole thing.
Yeah.
And we're like, there's nothing to do but show up now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there you go. I mean, you know what the nice thing with us over the course of you and I talking, and it's kind of funny because we find ourselves, coming around on Friday, we go, hey man, we talked like 3 times, 6 times this week, and we covered a lot of ground. And what's been nice is, we never talk in ifs, we talk in wins. We don't say if this happens or if it works. I can remember I accidentally said something about the podcast, and I said, hey, if we get to this, and you say, what do you mean if we get to this? It's when we get to this. And we might not know when we get there, but we're going to get there. And my prediction, just looking at the layout and talking to you, I've got the backstage pass on all the conversations we're having. This is going to be an exciting event that I believe is going to be replicated and duplicated elsewhere. I think where you were talking about where you went to learn for some things from Wisconsin and other places, I think people are going to start to look into Missouri and start to learn on the things, because this hasn't been done before. And I think it's dynamic. As someone that took 5 years to graduate high school, lecture format, I sit here and say, how cool is it to come into a room and realize that it's not going to be me sitting and listening and maybe have a little bit of engagement at the end, but yet it's a participatory, and I can see the beauty of it is, what you said is, hey, how do we go back and put into practice? Well, if you're listening to somebody for 45 minutes, it's very easy to say, oh, well, it's real easy to sit up there in the front of the room and say all this stuff, but what are they doing in their district? Or they don't even work in a district, right? But when you have people that are in the room that are like you practicing this already, and they get up and they go, hey, here's my best practice, or here's the hurdle that I had, or here's what they said would work, but it worked like this, then that builds that feeling of like, hey, I can do this. I can do what Charley did. And I think this is going to be awesome. And you've already got 50% of where you thought you were going to be on Friday for both Thursday and Friday.
That's
so
right.
My prediction is people are going to be saying to you, hey, why the heck didn't the Drury build a room that holds 100? Why did they stop at 96?
I know. The toughest part about hosting conferences and meetings is preparing for them. It's not the meeting. It's kind of like a new school facility or a ball game. You prepare for that event, and it's the preparation. So I know it's highly likely we're going to have to find a larger facility for next year. But the location of this Drury property is right off of Interstate 70. It's within 5 minutes of Lambert Airport. So if you have to rent a car, it's your fault. You could probably hitchhike,
Yeah.
though I'm going to pick you up
Oh, yeah.
from the airport because you'll probably hit me up for dinner the night before. Would be my guess, and and I'll oblige.
Yeah.
But it's it's finding the fit for the location, putting the right people in the room, and more than anything, it's giving people creating the opportunity for them to learn or to share or to ask questions. It's to give people just the chance,
Yeah.
the time and place. And many folks, I mean, this is January 20th in Missouri. I mean, we're looking at 2 to 5 inches tonight, zero weather tonight, tomorrow night. And in January 20th, I mean, it's just a shot in the dark here.
Yeah.
But you don't plan around the weather, you prepare for the weather, and then you plan your event. So I think we'll be fine. We're, by doing virtual, all we have to do is get you, Josh, here.
Yeah.
The presenters can be at home or at their office. But anyway, we think it's going to be a really unique event. Our folks are leaving their school districts and driving in here, and I know they're needed back home as well. Every minute they're away, but
Yeah.
if they can be gone for 24 hours and pick up one or two good ideas and a network of people that they can contact and ask another question or pick up a resource, hey, they have probably solved months worth of problems, things that are on their mind, something that's on their list. And it took a day. I've tried to find solutions sometimes for years and tried to figure out how we're going to do this or how we're going to resolve that. And met someone that said, in conversation, well, I had that once. I said, well, what'd you do? How'd you do it? And they tell me, and I'm like, all right, I've got a place to start. So there is a gentleman that will be there Thursday evening on the 19th to host a social event. I met this guy. I had an event at a little small district, the west side of my school district, one time, and we were leaking fuel oil. And I mean, I'm an assistant superintendent. I've never had a fuel oil leak. I called a plant manager in the Wright City School District that neighbors us, and I just said, I got a problem. What have you had this? He said, yes, you call this guy and he'll be out there. And he said, do you want me to call him for you? I said, yes, I'm heading to the scene. Within an hour after I get there, a neighboring school district, a member of Missouri School Plant Managers that I met, calls a vendor from Missouri School Plant Managers. He's got his cleanup team on site for me. I didn't fill out a work order and didn't call anybody but another school plant manager. So it's good stuff. I know we need to wrap up, but here's our need, Josh. We've got health issues in our world right now. We've had them. We're trying to conquer them. We're learning to deal with them. We're getting better at them. That we need to get together. We need to talk about healthy and safe schools. We have in our state of Missouri, over 180 of those 520 school districts have new superintendents this year. And there are going to be 100 more new ones next year. Now, these men and women lead their school districts. They don't have every answer about school facilities, but they need to have a place that does. And that's what we're for.
Yeah. Now you hit the nail on the head, and we'll wrap that. We'll wrap it with that. And I'm just I say it all the time. I pinch myself because of the opportunity that I have working with you and just being able to get to having the relationship that you and we've had, but it's tenfold over the last couple of months with these initiatives and this willingness to help. And you talk about, Spark Marketing and they're doing, thousands of dollars free of charge that they could charge. And you get these people that are just, they just feel the energy and they're like, I want to do this. And I'm sitting here saying, I can't wait to do 30, 40 or 50 podcasts with you guys in 2023 and sharing more, just because of the people that I'm around. I mean, Jim Rich, 17 years of Park Hill, listening to him and his passion and his kids and grandkids and him going through the school district that he gets to support and the impact. I mean, we've
Right.
got a lot of people like Jim that
We
we're
do.
gonna be putting in front for 2023 to show.
We do. We
And
do.
I'll tell you, I'm gonna leave on this note. First of all, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year to you and your family. Thank you for this opportunity. I can't wait to see you in person. And when you said hitchhiking, I was looking for. I was like, man, there's still places you can hitchhike that people talk about. Missouri's even more for me than I thought. My dad
Yeah.
used to hitchhike from Canton, Massachusetts, to Myra, Cape Breton, Canada, which is over about 1,000 miles, and back. He used to do that when he was in college in Boston, and this is in the 70s, early 70s, and he used to tell the stories. And and then people go, yeah, that's crazy, you couldn't do that for a second. So he said hitchhike. I was like, man, I might stick my thumb out. I might get my bandana and my stick and make my little sack and sit on the side of the road and see how that works.
Yep.
But once you said you're going to pick me up and take me to dinner, my TripAdvisor review is going to say best place to eat in St. Louis when Charley's buying. um but no, happy holidays. Thanks for making some time for this special episode. Great work 2022. Looking forward to 2023, and you're spot on. People are it's a crazy world out there. And I'll tell this story of I flew down to Tampa on Monday, and I met the flight attendant. I was walking up to use the restroom just before we were set to land, and she says, oh, I love your shirt, my Be Awesome shirt. And so we're talking about optimism and hope, and she was so amazing because it was talking about the stress in the travel agency this week, because it's the busiest travel week and Thanksgiving, and this
Right.
is, today is actually the second busiest travel day for this holiday season. And she was so calm and cool, and when we landed, she welcomed us at Tampa, and she had the standard flight attendant welcome message. And at the end of it, she said, um, I'm gonna share this with you. Not everyone in this plane needs to hear it, but I'm hoping that the person that does listens. And it is, man can live about 40 days without food, about 3 days without water, about 8 minutes without air, but only for 1 second without hope. And these events and the value that you're providing to your members is providing amazing hope to members that are in their islands, in their district, that are getting having some hard times in many cases, and you're doing some good stuff. So keep it up, always in MSPMA's corner, and looking forward to an exciting 2023, my friend.
Well, Merry Christmas, Josh, and we're looking forward to seeing you in next year in 2023.
Couple short weeks, and that'll do it here for episode 5. As always, we end every episode with a thank you to our listeners, followers, viewers, if you're watching us on YouTube. Without you, we wouldn't have 1,000+ downloads for 4 episodes. We wouldn't have people watching on YouTube. We wouldn't have the 5-star rating and reviews. We wouldn't have these opportunities to expose this to more. So you don't need to be in Missouri to listen to it, follow it, and do all that stuff. If you feel like we're doing a great job here, please give us a 5-star rating and review. That helps us build visibility, credibility, and listeners and viewers. If we don't have that deserving right of that 5-star rating and review, send me a note, Josh, Josh, at beawesome, beausm.com, and let's talk about it. Because I always say, if I do a good job, tell your friends. If I don't, tell me, and we'll work through it. But I think we're putting on a really great product here, and it's showing in the results, and we couldn't do it without you. So Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year to y'all, and we'll talk soon. Be well.